coming up on Mic'd Up.
When you're an entrepreneur, by definition, the thing you're doing is usually something new, different, out of the ordinary, breaking a mold. And so that is never going to be easy. So it's one of the things you have to accept. You have to accept that people are going to challenge you. They're going to push back on you. And, the bigger your dream and the bigger your aspirations and the bigger your goals, the more people get scared of that sometimes and want to knock that down or want to knock you down as a human being. And I tell people all the time, you cannot sweat that, and you cannot let those people who are small thinkers determine your great successes in life.
Welcome to Mic'd Up. I'm your host, Mike DeChocho, and on my show, I interview entrepreneurs, award-winning authors, entertainers, business leaders, athletes, and other talented individuals who I personally invited to join the show to inspire you to be brave and bold in pursuit of your dreams. If you dig this show and are looking for more inspiring content from incredible people, click the subscribe button and you'll be notified of each episode release. Subscribing is free, and it means the world to me that you've chosen my channel to tune into. You can give a gift of thanks and appreciation for providing this content to you. Simply visit patreon.com/mikedup, MIKEDUP. Any amount is greatly appreciated and totally unexpected. I welcome you to connect with me on my other social channels as well. All links are clickable in the description to make it even easier to connect. Thank you again for tuning in to Mic'd Up. Enjoy the show. Our guest today is a startup and venture capital attorney, a law professor, and a seasoned investor. Her unique blend of legal, fundraising, and operational experience as a founder and venture capitalist provides her with the ability to greatly understand the issues facing her venture and startup clients. She teaches venture capital and dealmaking and rainmaking for new lawyers at the Ohio State University Moritz College of Law, where she is also a frequent guest lecturer. In addition to educating her audiences on venture capital and investing, she is also a national speaker on topics such as women, diversity, and inclusion in finance. Welcome to the show, partner at Thompson Hine, the co-founder of W Fund, and the host of Be Bolder podcast, Lindsay Karas Stencel.
Yay! Well, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for doing this. I know I've done over 100 episodes. I know you're as busy as anybody I've ever met in my life. I was looking at your LinkedIn and I'm like, oh, she's doing that now. She's doing that now. But she's still also doing that. And she's doing this and this and this. And I was like, she's doing like 19 different things. So I had to summarize your bio. I know I omitted some things there, but did I at least cover some of the ground?
It was beautiful. I mean, I guess the things that I have to give a shout out to, I'm a normal human being like others too. I'm a wife. I'm a dog mom of 4. So I have rescue dogs ranging in age from 8 to 7 months. So we have our hands full, particularly with the little guy. But yeah, trying to fit it all in and be the best wife, partner, law firm partner, teammate, investor, professor, all that stuff that I can be.
I'll tell, just to fill the audience, and we met at a Launch New York event maybe 2-3 years ago now, and I could just tell, your energy level was very high, you were part of putting this event on, and it was just a lot of fun meeting you, and I just knew you were extremely knowledgeable. I never knew that I'd be interviewing you. The show didn't even exist when we met, and then I kind of been following you on social media, and I see that you take the same energy you put into your work into your personal life. You're at the gym early, you're busting your tail, you're with your family, you're with your dogs, and your show is called Be Bolder. It's not just kind of do okay. You're very bold. You put yourself out there. You even get vulnerable at times on the show, I know, which is great, to be real with people. And so I appreciate you, with all that said, to be here so we can dive into this little mini masterclass on venture capital. Are you ready to rock and roll?
I am so ready. So ready to talk about one of my favorite topics.
This could be a 6-hour episode. We're going to keep it to probably closer to 50, if that's cool, so people can digest it. Get your notepads out, guys. And also, you can connect. We talked about Lindsay being active on social media. All those links are clickable in the show notes. You don't have to worry about writing it down. If you're driving right now and you want to get her website, that's all in the show notes. So let's do this. Let's get started here. But before we talk about venture capital and startups and investing, I'd love to go back in time and actually talk more about you to get this thing kicked off and your story. So let's do a deeper dive on that. Did you have an interest in entrepreneurship from a young age? When did you fall in love with this idea of working with startups?
That's a great question. I think I've always had a gravitational pull for me, if you will, towards business and watching and helping others sort of achieve their dreams, me achieving my dreams. And I kind of recognized early on that sometimes that's a little tough to do in certain environments. If you're achieving someone else's dream, if it's not really your dream, that's a little bit of a tough thing, right? So I would say I kind of caught the bug for entrepreneurship through my first post-law school, post-MBA full-time job at a family of venture capital funds called NCT Ventures.
So you were doing law, just so I could follow the bouncing ball here. So you were going to school already for law. Did you know that you wanted to be involved with business law at that point? Or did this venture opportunity kind of like find you a little bit? And then that spawned into what you're doing today?
Yeah, it found me. So I went to law school. So I was going to be a doctor, actually. And I'm a chatty Kathy. And I got yelled at a lot in lab.
You'd see 2 patients all day. You'd be like, what's going on with Lindsay? She's got 2 patients. Everybody else saw 19.
Lindsay saw 2 because she didn't shut up. I hated lab. I did great in classes. I just hated lab. And I got to this place 3 years into biochemistry. And I was like, I don't think I want to do this with my life. And I was playing lacrosse in college. So they were going to pay for me to play a 5th year anyway. So I kind of had this nice ability to change what I was doing and change my course. And at that time, a early 2000s movie came out called Legally Blonde. And I was like, I can go to law school. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I did know that law school was going to involve me being analytical. It was going to allow me to have some level of impact on the world around me. What that was going to be at the time, I wasn't totally sure. I was a little bit leaning towards politics at that time, but as I matured, that was not a place for me.
I think it's awesome that you're being real right now and saying, look, it was a movie when I was young and moldable, and it was like, gave me an idea. I think that's awesome. I think that happens a lot with people with sports, growing up and watching it and having, an interest in maybe coaching or getting into the media side of sports. Like there's this love for something that the seed gets planted in your heart. And I know you're laughing about it being a movie, but no, it gave you an idea like, hey, if she can do this, and you kind of like admired her character in some way, then you saw yourself in that role. And that's really what people need to do, is visualize the dream. And then you were brave and bold enough to say, I'm going to go do that. And you did.
Well, and, I think the part of her character that actually resonated with me wasn't so much her being a little bit funny and loving the color pink and having her little dog in her bag, which those are nice things. But I think everybody sort of judged the book by its cover there. And my entire life, people have been judging this book by its cover, which for the most part, now I don't let it really affect me or bother me. I am who I am. I do what I do. I say what I say. I wear what I wear. But that took a long time to get comfortable to get there. And I'm sure we can get to that part of the story as we're sort of, walking through here. But I think that's the part of the story that resonated with me more than anything, because I was like, wait, this woman who was highly intelligent just turns out like everybody kind of put her in a box because of the way that she looked or what she loved or what she talked about. Shame on them, right? When you watch the story. But I sort of think that's the part of the story that resonated with me the most. But anyway, fast forward. Yes, I was going to law school. I didn't love law school, which is funny now that I teach at law school, but I didn't love it. And so I actually got my MBA at the same time because I was like, okay, I'm going to utilize this legal skill set, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into investment banking or venture or private equity. Like I have, for better or worse, a trait where I am a grade A workaholic, and that's a good thing in certain circumstances and a really bad thing in others. But I knew that those kind of things pulled at me. I liked the pace. I liked the involvement in growing businesses or recapitalizing businesses. And so when the opportunity presented itself at NCT, I jumped on it, even though the way I got in the door was I interviewed to be like an MBA analyst type of person, a quant jock, if you will. And I was super excited about that. And they didn't give me the job right away. And I was like, what in the actual hell? Like, I'm twice as qualified as these other people. Like, what? And they called me back and said, hey, you've got this different skill set of law and finance. Would you be willing to come in and sort of oversee our legal department? I said, sure, but I want to work on the business side of this too. I don't want to just be like pigeonholed. And I tell people that because sometimes you've got to use the tools that are before you to use a wedge to blow a door open, right? Because I probably wouldn't have gotten that job if I wouldn't have said, yes, but I also want to do this too. But I used that legal side of it to get that wedge in the door to like blow the opportunity open. And, from there, I was a wee little associate and became one of the managing partners ultimately of that firm. And while that was happening, I accidentally started a law firm. So I found an opportunity in the market where startup founders, I was working with a lot of startups, investing in them through venture. And we could talk about what venture is and all of those things. But I accidentally started a law firm because I saw that startups couldn't afford $900,000 an hour to like have an LLC formed. That was crazy, So I started helping people and I thought like, oh, I'll just pay off my student loans faster. That's neat, and 2 clients turned into 4 turned into 16, and you see where this is going. Ended up running this 200 plus client law firm, with that I didn't intend to run. I was just helping people. So yeah, it was a very wild thing. And then towards like more the tail end of that, then that's actually how you and I got connected. I became the chief investment officer at Launch New York, where we invested in, 70 plus startups during my tenure and had one of the most active seed funds in the country. So it was a fun and wild ride, but also tells you I probably know a little bit about this topic. So
Yeah, absolutely. What I want to say too is unpack a lot of what you just covered. And thank you for putting it kind of on a linear scale so we could follow your story. First of all, you're a complete boss, babe. I know you own that. You got that character down and it's you, which I love, which is why I wanted you to be here, because you are yourself and that's unique. And I always tell everybody, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. And Lindsay, you're totally yourself. And I think it's great for people to go back and realize what you said there is that it wasn't easy for you to be yourself in the beginning because people weren't necessarily bought into being acceptable, that you would show up in law and everyone's in their black suits with their $900 suits. And you're just kind of like, I'm myself. You dress nice, but you have a fun side to you. You wear the bright pink lipstick, whatever. That's part of your character. And now everybody knows and loves that. Like you show up to a meeting and if you're not like that, we're kind of like, if you're not feeling well, the vibrancy level is not at 212%. Something is not right. So I love that you stayed true to yourself. And then also the other part of your story that I don't want to just roll right past is that you knew you were a workaholic. You didn't necessarily love the school part of it, but you wanted to apply. You're an applier. Entrepreneurs are very much hands-on. They want to go do things. And you learn all this stuff in school and you're like, okay, but now I want to go work somewhere. And there's these 3 different buckets and you kind of got into the venture capital side of it. And then once you did that, it wasn't like you're just going to hang around and be one of the guys or gals on the team. You always were striving to be the greatest you can. And it's clear that people also picked up on it quickly and gave you more responsibilities. And you always ran with it. Like you said, you kicked the doors open and you came in and you handled what was in front of you and you continue to do that. So I'm not surprised that you're at where you're at because you have the mindset, the right mentality, and the action that followed it. And I think that's the recipe for success.
Yeah, I would agree. And, for anyone who's out there listening, like when you're an entrepreneur, by definition, the thing you're doing is usually something new, different, out of the ordinary, breaking a mold. And so that is never going to be easy. So it's one of the things you have to accept. You have to accept that people are going to challenge you. They're going to push back on you. And, the bigger your dream and the bigger your aspirations and the bigger your goals, the more people get scared of that sometimes and want to knock that down or want to knock you down as a human being. And I tell people all the time, like, you cannot sweat that and you cannot let those people who are small thinkers determine your great successes in life. So,
Yeah, it says more about them than it does about you. I've learned that kind of the hard way. I'm an emotional person. So if you give me the smallest compliment, that can make my day and that can set me up for the whole week of energy. One little review on Apple Podcasts, people don't realize how much that means to me because I visualize someone like, hey, they took time out of their day to listen. They care about the content. It meant something to them. And then they took another minute out of their day to write about it. And that really does feel good. Like if I owned a restaurant and I got a great restaurant review, that's going to light me up and it does matter. But at the same time, one person going in the opposite direction, one critical review, or someone who just says something goofy in a meeting that just sticks with you, you remember that. And for some reason, it seems like you can get 99 great compliments and one person who's just off with a comment, and that one person kind of sticks. And we have to remind ourselves, like, okay, that says more about them, that they would kind of throw a dart at you. But something I recently posted on social media is like, we don't have to be the dartboard. Like, people are going to throw darts. And a lot of times they do that when they see that we're a bigger target, like we're resonating, we're going and getting our dreams. And I hate to say it, but a lot of times the people who are throwing darts are people who gave up on their dreams. I'm not trying to be critical. Everyone has their own life, but it happens. And it's unfortunate. And I know, because I started to have that happen to me, and it took a divorce for me to actually rattle me enough to say, hey, dude, like, get real with yourself again. So back to your story, enough about me. What I'd love to do is talk about, because I know a lot of people tuning in are fresh, green entrepreneurs. They either have an idea and they want to implement it. They're looking to get outside of kind of working for the man and work for themselves. It's not always that situation, but usually it's pretty common. And they're looking to strive for greatness, and they want to make sure they're building the right way. They're doing things the right way. So as we record this in 2022, the show Shark Tank is still very popular, and I'm going to use it as an example simply because I think most of our audience can relate to it. That's why I'm using it.
Okay.
I notice on the show a lot of times the sharks don't make an investment, or they don't partner with someone if they're not interested either in the line of business, or they don't have enough knowledge of it and they feel like they wouldn't be a good investor. So my question to you is, how important is it to follow something that you actually know and care about and have a little heart tug? Or is it better to actually just let the money do the talking and the thinking and not have a connection to it? You know what I mean? Where you're like, this business shows on a chart that it's going to make X, Y, Z. I know nothing about it, but if it can double, I'm going to do it. Or do you go with something that's maybe not as definitive on paper that you feel you'd be a really good fit for?
Yeah, I think ultimately that depends on your goals of the business, right? Look, banks loan money all the time, maybe not to freshly minted startups, but businesses who are, in business a couple years, and maybe those people just need some capital to accelerate growth. The bank doesn't care what you're doing, and you don't care what the bank is doing. You borrow their money, you grow your business, you return the capital, everything's great. But if you're really looking for a partner, or a lot of times what we find is we bring in investors or investment capital because they can gap close on things that we just don't have skills on. And so maybe you're a great visionary and you have this beautiful business model built out, but you need some operational expertise, or you need some connectivity to next customer or next investor or next advisor, or whatever the case is going to be. That, if the money that you're taking on is smart money and they can help you with those things, it's like a win-win. Yes, you need the capital to grow or pay yourself or pay your team. That's important. But you also need some expertise in areas like, we can't be the best at all things. It's just not possible. Trust me, I have tried. Okay. It is not realistic. It is not possible. And so you really should find folks that are complementary to you and not just yes people. When I say yes people, the people who are just like, oh yeah, everything that you do, that's great. What value is that adding? You also don't want the no people who are going to tell you no on everything, because you want people who maybe they're going to tell you, hey, no, that's not the right way to do it, but let's try this. You don't want people who are naysayers. You want solution givers. And so hopefully the people you find can also help expand abilities, bring solutions, things like that.
Yeah, there's a difference in saying no because you've actually evaluated the situation and you don't think it's a good idea. So you're educating to say yes or no, which again, a yes could be great, but if it's a yes only because you're afraid to shake things up, that's no good. And saying no because you're hardened, jaded, and someone who probably doesn't belong in that business anymore, and they're just going to keep saying no because I don't either have more time or energy, then they're saying no to things that could be great opportunities, which is why people swing and miss. Or they don't even swing and miss. They didn't even lift the bat off their shoulder to swing. So you want someone who's actually going to evaluate when to say yes, when to say no, and have a reason behind it. And the other thing I want to make sure I understood you right is, so you're saying it is better if you have a little bit of heart in the game, because the heart is coming from your interest and understanding of it, so you can apply yourself into the business. Like the skill sets that you may have, you're going to be more interested. If you're doing a business or working in something that you care about, like the sharks do. I forget all their names, but one of them's like more QVC model. So they're like, this is a perfect product that I can get you into this, right? And someone may say, this is not a product for what I'm comfortable with. So there's going to be a lot of learning and growing pains. So it's probably not the right fit for me.
And I think that's right. If you're an investor, you've got to think about things that way. Like you can't add value if you're doing only QVC model stuff and someone comes to you and says, hey, why don't you invest in my implantable device, my medical implantable device? Like you probably know nothing about this. So sure, you can add capital, but what other value can you add? Probably not a lot without a massive learning curve. And that's frustrating for the investor. It can be frustrating for the entrepreneur. You want people who can get excited, understand it, can move the ball forward as fast as possible, because oftentimes it is a race towards the finish line, because a lot of people are like, well, you should patent this or whatever. Like lots of things aren't patentable. Lots of software is not patentable. Okay. So you've got to be a first mover, a first acquirer of massive amount of customer base in order to be the true winner in an industry a lot of times.
It was Lori. That's who I was thinking of, the shark that has kind of the QVC model. The other question and kind of part two to that then is, have you ever been in a situation where you had to kind of rescind your heart, what you felt about a business, to make more of a business decision where it's not making money? I love this founder and they're great and I really want to see them succeed, but we have to cut ties. Does that happen too, where you're kind of dealt with some tough situations?
Yeah. And that is so hard, right? Because as investors, if you're doing it right, you're in there, you're talking to these folks every week, every other week. You understand not just the business, but a lot of times you have to understand the humans behind the business, because you understand what's driving them, their decisions, or why they're stressed about certain things, or what's moving their meter personally, so that you can sort of keep them on the straight and narrow. So naturally, you get an affection for these people. You don't want to see them fall down on their face, or you don't want to see bad things happen. But when you're an investor, particularly when you're investing other people's money, you have a fiduciary responsibility to make the best business decisions available. And unfortunately, business and you caring about someone or their team don't always totally align. And so, there's been times where company is, I won't name companies, but like a company is having a tough time, like sales aren't coming in the way that they're supposed to, receivables are lagging. And they're like, look, we need more capital. And I've had to say, look, we've had this song and dance now 25 times. This might not be the model that you think it is. And so I'm going to not invest. I'll be supportive. I'll connect you to people. I'll do whatever. But you sometimes just have to go, man, I'm not going to invest. And that is a tough conversation. And no one likes to be told no. You don't like to tell people no, right? That doesn't feel good either.
You're rooting for them. You want the underdog to pull through, and maybe they fall 25 times, you want to help them with 26. But when it's everybody's money in the bank on that, it's like, at a certain point, everybody else's interest level, no pun intended, but like their interest in the client starts to get taken away, because it's like everyone can root for you so hard, but it's a results business.
Exactly. And a lot of times when you have several companies before you, so venture funds, we pool together other people's money, be it institutions and high net worth individuals, et cetera. We bring it into a pool and we invest based on a thesis. Maybe firms only want to invest in healthcare tech or agricultural technology or things of that nature, or medical technology or consumer product goods like QVC. But, they all have their sort of theme and thesis, and they're going to invest somewhere between usually like 15 companies to some funds they just spray and pray and they do 40 companies. Okay. You have a limited number of resources. You can't just like keep funding everything. That just isn't how it works. And we actually expect at a minimum after first investment, a 33% failure rate right off the bat. And then we kind of expect like maybe the next third is going to return capital, but not make money. And then we're banking on that remaining, third to try to hit these home runs. And so I think a lot of people get confused in that because they go, well, you're in ventures, so you just like make a bunch of money all the time. Yeah, I lose a bunch of money too. Like that's just what happens in the industry, right? But you have to have more wins than losses or at least more big wins to offset the other losses.
Reminds me of baseball, Lindsay, like where the best player is batting at 33%. 333,
And that's like an amazing batting
Yeah.
average.
Yeah.
And venture average.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 1/3. If you're good 1/3 of the time, you're a superhero.
Yeah. And so you have to make these tough decisions sometimes where you just have to say, this doesn't continue to make sense to invest in. And some people, that is like the thing that they need to go, oh, I was sort of like nursing this available capital, but now I don't have that. I've got to make some solutions. I've got to get creative. And the best entrepreneurs can take a garbage business and turn it into at least something. And other entrepreneurs whose maybe heart's not in it, or they're tired or whatever, they're run down, and all those things are okay and real. Those are probably going to fail, but maybe they'll go at it again and start up another one. That happens all the time.
Yeah. We have less than 20 minutes left. We're going to take a break. I'm going to actually sandwich both of our sponsors. First one is our company, Social Chameleon, which is a podcast production company. We'll talk a little bit about that. And also my bookkeeping services, Navigator Bookkeeping. A shout out to Nate. So let's do those 2 ads real quick. We'll be right back with Lindsay in one moment. Hey guys, it's Mike. I'd like to give a proper shout out to Navigator Bookkeeping. Look, for a long time, I ran my business without really understanding the full financial picture. I used my gut and my bank account balance to make decisions, which led to some poor choices and constant stress over my business's finances. I knew something needed to change. At the beginning of 2021, I made a decision that helped pave a more clear path for my business. I started working with Navigator Bookkeeping. Since then, my bookkeeping has been handled for me. I now understand the full financial story of my business, making important financial decisions much easier now, and it helps me plan for where my business is going. I highly recommend giving Navigator Bookkeeping an opportunity to help your business. Check them out at navigatingyourbooks.com. Again, that's navigatingyourbooks.com. It's time to know the full financial story of your business. Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you. And that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight. And Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. All right, we're back in action with Lindsay. Guys, remember, you can connect with her on social media. All those links are clickable in the show notes, making it super easy to connect. Right before the break, Lindsay was talking about some of the tough decisions that she needs to make in venture capital and that banks need to make working as lenders with different entrepreneurs. But something I wanted to do would be more proactive for our audience is kind of talk about maybe 3 red flags when evaluating a business. Something that's in real big red letters, capital letters, no deal. You run in the opposite direction when you see these 3 things. And then we can flip it. Part 2 would be, what are 3 signs of a healthy business? Like as an investor, what are you looking for? So maybe let's do the 3 things you'd run in the opposite direction for, and then 3 things that would be an encouraging sign.
Sure. So first one, at the end of the day, this is about business. And so we have to have a business that makes sense. And so for me, a big red flag is when I don't think that the entrepreneur understands its actual, what we call TAM, total addressable market, or total serviceable markets. So, if you tell me, I've got this education technology that does A and B and C, really specific things. And then you try to tell me, so the total addressable market is the $1.1 trillion education technology. No, it's not. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that. And so for me, that starts to be a little bit of a red flag that maybe they don't really understand the market, or maybe they don't understand how the sales cycle works. And so I start to kind of pick at those things. And so, next thing, particularly, I tend to invest in seed and early stage types of businesses. So very early on in a pipeline. So a lot of risk. we don't always know everything that we need to know. So we're making a lot of assumptions. So I have to bet on the humans that are doing the deal and running the business day to day. And so my first thing that I want to see, and if I don't see it, I kind of go, is a blend of, hey, someone's sticking to their guns on something, but they're also coachable and they listen. They actually hear you, because there are some very headstrong entrepreneurs who are like, my idea is the best thing. I've literally had an entrepreneur one time who was like, you don't know anything. Like, you're stupid. Why would I work with you? Like, by the way, that person never raised a dime. Like, let's just be clear. So I don't think I'm the one who's stupid here. I'm not going to take that personally, but like, I'm just asking you bare bones questions. Like, I'm just trying to understand something, and you're coming at me. No one's going to want to talk to you, work with you. You're not coachable. You're not a reasonable human being. Like, we're getting into a relationship here for probably the next 5 to 7 years, right? It's longer than the average American marriage. We got to like each other, kind of. And if I don't even want to talk to you on day one, no, thank you. And then I guess the next thing, and I pick at it and I test for it in different ways, but if I don't see someone who's gritty, like I see someone who's like a little passive and I'm like, hey, can you get me these 5 things? I'm just trying to understand X, Y, and Z. And they're like, well, I don't know those, or I can't find them, or whatever. And it's very like nonchalant.
Expecting it to take care of itself is not a good trait to have.
In a startup, no matter what kind of business you are, you're going to hit a roadblock and you got to pivot and you got to find an answer, or you're going to die. That's literally what happens, right? And so if I can't see that someone's like willing to take some of those steps and solve for some of those things, I'm like, no, thank you.
I think those are great. I think that's some of the best material that we've covered on Mic'd Up that's helpful to people. That right there, I think I'm going to put that in a vault and revisit it, because it's personality, it's people, it's a people's business. You have to connect with someone and be rooting for them, but also communication is key. And if this guy is just his way or the highway and is not taking advice from someone who's an expert like you are and worked with, just with Launch New York, you said over 70 companies. You've done this so many times. And then for someone to be that hardened is definitely a red flag. And the other things you said are super valuable as well. And I think that's great. So then what about when you are meeting with a company and you're getting into like, hey, I think this looks like a great opportunity for us, when you're talking to the other people on the Capital team? What are some things that are encouraging? You're like, wow, they really got this together way earlier than we thought.
Yes. We don't have all the answers, particularly on the early side of it. But if someone has really taken a deep dive on what I call their unit economics of their deal, and so understanding fundamentally the assumptions, costs, all of those things that go into producing a thing to sell the thing, how much does it cost to sell the thing out and how much do you make back on it? That to me, huge. And so it's kind of the opposite side of the coin. Like, they also understand, hey, my total addressable market is X. We think we can capture Y. Here's how we're going to do it. They're making my job almost like easy for me. Do I still have to vet all of those things? Yes. Did they instill confidence in me that they've really thought about it? Also, yes. I think there's that. I like someone who also questions me and is like, hey, can you tell me about some things that went really, really right? Some things that went really, really wrong? Are you willing to give me some references that I can check with? Especially if someone's like, give me a good one and give me a bad one, right? And look, we've all got people who don't like us. I'm no different, right? People have been very mad at me in times past, and I'm like, hey, no more money. Sorry, we have to like stop this. And they take that very personally, and it's not personal, but it is what it is.
No, I think that's great. It kind of reminds me of like the sports analogy. I'm a big sports fan, if you couldn't tell. Like, it's like a head coach gets to work with Tom Brady, like Bruce Arians. This isn't a knock on him, but they won the Super Bowl last year, and very much that team was all led by Tom Brady, right? And so his job got a lot easier than if he had a rookie quarterback that he had to prove. And totally, it makes sense in business. If you're working with an entrepreneur who's doing a lot of those right things, they come to you educated, they come to you willing. And I think you just nailed it. This goes for anything in life. I can tell you, anybody I've met, the best people to work with are those that are really hardworking, of course, but also willing to be coached. Willing to say, I don't have it all figured out. Can you help me? And then, like you said, the other great thing is people who kind of challenge you in the right way, not the guy who's in your face, you're dumb, you're not agreeing with me, so I don't like you. They're coming to you saying, Lindsay, I know this doesn't seem right, but do you think we can maybe give it one more shot? Because I think we can prove you wrong. And then you're like, I would love you to prove me wrong, right? Come and do it. Like, show me. It's more relational that way.
Yeah. And then I think, last one, it's sort of being highly organized, which kind of goes along with, yes, knowing your stuff. But if someone's highly organized, without process, there is no, or at least limited progress. Okay. So if you don't have an operational foundation to your business and things are all over the place and it takes you forever to get me something, I have concerns. But when someone's like, hey, Lindsay, here's the link to every single thing that you might need about this business, and let's set up a time to have a discussion about it afterwards, I'm like, thank you. It just makes life so much easier, And so those things kind of, altogether, it's giving you this confidence that goes like, this could be a workable relationship. And maybe it's a great business, maybe it's not, but at least they're giving you the opportunity and the tools to figure out yay or nay, and does it fit my investment thesis, and am I going to roll forward with it?
Absolutely. One of the greatest traits, I think, of an entrepreneur, I can tell you this personally, as one myself, about 4 years into my journey, and just following a ton of great entrepreneurs who've crashed and burned many times and keep coming back. And the greatest, again, sports analogy I could think of is like Michael Jordan. He's taken the shots, and because he's missed and he keeps with the same energy and effort, continues to shoot that ball, he's eventually going to be successful. He never gives up. So you, as an entrepreneur, have that never give up mentality. Yes, be coachable. If things are going sour, realize it doesn't taste right, and then adjust. And the word is pivot, but that's been way overused, as you know, in 2020, 2021. But you need to be able to adjust and adapt and learn and grow. But the thing is, resiliency is the key word. That's the common denominator. And I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different turn for a second. I know you're a very resilient person in your personal life too. And I don't know that many people know this about you. You shared it with me personally, and you talked about overcoming, you had a cancerous tumor, correct?
It ended up coming back benign, but yes.
Oh, it was benign. Okay. You told me this a couple of years ago. Can you share the story about, you have a comeback story here with this whole thing. It was a brain tumor, right?
Yeah. So it was called a benign brain neoplasm. So your skull is a porous place. And so I had brain matter that was sitting external to the top of my skull and basically formed an egg-sized mass in my face. And then that got infected because your body goes, wait, something's wrong here.
This was how many years ago?
2.
Only 2 years ago. Wow.
Yeah. And so your body goes, whoa, like something's wrong. And the way I learned that something was wrong, I was pushing a pace that was really, really hard. I mean, working 100 hours a week, flying all over the country. I was home 2 days a week on a good week, right? So I thought, I'm just getting sick a lot because I'm traveling a lot and I'm run down. And I kept going to urgent care and they'd give me antibiotics and it would sort of like 80% solve the problem. And then I'd be back in 3 weeks. And after the 5th time of going there in 3 months, it was the beginning of August of 2019, the doctor there looked at me. He goes, you have been here too many times. There's something going on here. I'm going to send you to an ENT. Maybe you need your tonsils out. Maybe there's something else going on. We don't know. And I was like, okay. And at the time I was 36 and I was like, getting my tonsils out is really going to suck. It is going to suck hard because it sucks when you're 6.
Yeah. You're talking 100 hours a week with people and communicating and having your tonsils out. Like hashtag, nobody got time for that.
Right. And so went to see a specialist. They were like, hey, let's do a CT scan, figure out what's going on. They did the CT one day after my 37th birthday. They read it to me 2 days later. That ENT, not the highest emotional intelligence. And he pointed at the screen and he goes, you see this side of your face? He goes, that's what a normal face looks like. He goes, see this? He goes, you either have a massive infection or you have brain cancer. That's how he says it. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing about legal training is it actually teaches you to remove emotion from the like very chaotic things that are happening around you. And I function very well in a very high stress situation. So when I'm by myself and I literally shut down emotionally and I go, okay, what do I need to do? What are the next steps? Who do I need to call? What do I have? So I'm walking through it like a robot and I walk out to my car. And this is how disassociated I was from this at this time because I was so scared. I didn't even call my husband. I called one of my coworkers and I was like, hey, we got to get this deal done. He could hear something was wrong. He goes, are you okay? I was like, no. And I was like, I have to go. So I hung up the phone, called my husband, told him what was going on, and I lost it. And 5 days later, I was in with a specialist, and he was beautifully emotionally intelligent, and he could pick up I was like a little bit of a high-strung human being. So he was like, I don't know what this is. We're going to go in there. We're going to do some exploration. We're going to figure it out. What he didn't tell me until after I had recovered from surgery was like, I thought you had cancer.
But that doesn't serve you, whether he thought that or not. Telling you that makes you think I have cancer. And there's an emotional and there's actually a physical thing. I don't want to speak on it because I don't know enough about it. But I know when it's like the placebo effect of telling someone you have cancer and it's terminal and like, hey, you're going to be fine. We got to do some treatments. Like the way the body responds to that definitely does help. There's something there.
There is. And what the mind says, the body hears, right? And so what the mind hears also, like it translates out to your body. And so within 2 weeks, I was in surgery, and it was like a 5-hour procedure. It was very long. And they went in there and they took out literally an egg-sized mass.
Was it visible? Did you see it?
You could a little bit. It was back like in my sinus cavity all through here. You can't see where I'm pointing if you're listening, but like at the top of my nose, behind my left eye. And I had actually started to have floaters. So I was like having a hard time seeing in my left eye, and they couldn't figure out why. I went to the eye doctor. They couldn't see it because it wasn't totally like hitting the optic nerve yet. So anyway, they took out this mass. The doctor was like, good Lord, Lindsay. He goes, this thing broke your nose. And I just had a headache all the time because I thought I was annoyed with everyone and their brother, right? It turns out I just had a broken nose and this giant mass in my face. So they took that out. They ran tests on it. It came back as brain matter that was also infected. So that's obviously not where your brain is supposed to be. So they classify that as a brain neoplasm. What I learned later, so if you're ever going through something that's health related, don't scare the hell out of yourself and like look it all up online. Wait till you're past the scare. Like there is no sense scaring yourself. Once I was finally cleared after about a year of going back to the doctor, at first once a month to confirm nothing was coming back, and then every 3, yada, yada, I finally was like brave enough to look up what that is and what it, yeah. And turns out the universe was so kind to me. Like I could get emotional about it right now, but 0.5% of brain neoplasms happen the way that mine did. A super majority of them happen in the back of the skull, where they basically have to crack your skull open, take it out of like near your brain stem. So I was just so lucky, but it was like this amazing, I never look at something and go, man, why did that happen to me? I look at things and I go, what can I learn from that? What can I take from that? And that was such a wake-up call for me because I was spending so much time putting energy into everyone and everything, and I wasn't really taking care of myself and my own stress load and some of the things going on in my life. And that was just this moment where I had to stare decisions in the face, and I chose myself. And I think in turn, the universe said, okay, we get you, kid. She gets it. And they gave me a second chance. So I'm very lucky.
This is so good. I got goosebumps. I'm so like, it's just great to hear how things with a 0.5 less % chance that things went the way they did. And I do believe it was the fact that you were positive throughout it. And then obviously you had the great doctors working with you, and getting the right opinions and everything matters. So I wanted you to share that story. I know it's difficult to share it, and it's something I didn't realize was only 2 years ago. For some reason, I thought it was a little bit longer ago than that. The point is, guys, if something doesn't feel right, seem right, get it checked out. It's not just stress. If you have a headache every day, it's more than you just putting a lot of load on your shoulders. Go get that looked at, figure it out. Hopefully it's nothing major, but if it is, you got to handle it sooner than later. And look at Lindsay's story. Like the fact that she was proactive allows her to be here with us today. So now I'm getting emotional thinking about it. But I think you're just a wonderful example of doing things the right way. And I know you're not looking for the pat on your back, but in everything you do, like you're putting the right effort into it. One of the things you learned, whether it was in school or just your character, is you get the answers. Like you're really good, I noticed, with finding out why something is the way it is. Like that's why you're so successful, because you don't just accept an answer, you do the investigation. And that's why you're successful with the medical process.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I will tell you, a lot of people put off, and self included, like even to a degree, I was like just thinking it wasn't anything. And you put it off because you tell yourself, I don't have time, Or I know healthcare is expensive. I don't have money to go to the doctor for some people, but I can't stress enough. Take care of yourself first. The rest of the stuff is going to fall into place. You need to take care of yourself. And I say that mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever that means to you, and financially. If those things are in line, everything else in your universe takes care of itself. But if one of those legs of the stool is not working, the rest of it is just really hard to right that ship. So if you take nothing away from this today, take that. Even when you're trying to grow your business and you're grinding on that and whatever, you can't make the best decisions for your business if you're worried about your personal finances at home, if you're worried about your health, if you're worried, you're not taking care of yourself and meditating or praying or whatever it works for you, or you're not eating right or exercising. If those things aren't happening, you can't tell me you're making the best decisions for your business. I will not believe you.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so true. I think of that myself too. A lot of times I put myself last. It's horrible. And I'm like, I have to make that decision. I have to send these 36 emails and produce all this content before I wake up in the morning. Otherwise, we're going to fall short on deadlines. And then at the end of the day, I'm the one kind of beating myself up. And so that is great. I'm hearing that loud and clear right now. You got to take care of yourself. Look, someone could offer you $100,000 valuation on your business or whatever the money amount is that you're looking for. But the thing that they can't do is hand you a clean bill of health. They cannot hand you something that's invaluable, which is your health, your well-being. So that's always going to be the top of the pecking order. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. This was fun. It flew by. You're invited back anytime you want to be on the show. Any last words you want to share?
I'll just reiterate, when you're growing your business, that is a really important thing, and it is a piece of you, and I understand that. But in order for that business to be the best that you can give it, you do need to take care of yourself. And I do mean that very, very sincerely. So yeah, I would say put yourself first, and the rest of it just takes care of itself. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in you're honoring you, and the rest of it, that sets the tone for the energy that answers back.
Whether it's business or personal life and relationships, got to take care of yourself so you can take care of your family, right? Well, enjoy the rest of the day. Take care of your family and those beautiful dogs. And I know you're very busy. Make sure you take a moment to reflect back on your story and realize you are doing amazing in so many different things. And I see you. I picked up on it. I'm glad that you came on the show today to share your story with everybody.
Well, thank you for having me. It was fun, and it was an honor. And I think you're too kind. Just a girl trying to do the right thing day in and day out. That's all. So
thank you so much.
Right.
Hey, be great and be grateful.
I will.
And be bold.
Not just bold, be bolder.
I'd like to give a huge shout out to everyone for tuning in, especially those who listen all the way to the end to hear this message. Seriously, I appreciate you, and my guests do as well. Giving a quick reminder to subscribe to this show. It's completely free and will allow you to receive notifications when new episodes are released. If you'd like to provide a tip as a gift, you can do so via patreon.com/mikedup. It's spelled MIKED up. Patreon.com/mikedup. You can give as little as $1 per month or as much as you'd like. Every dollar is greatly appreciated and completely unexpected. Appreciate your reviews and your messages coming in on social as well. Keep them coming. Your feedback is valuable and absolutely means the world to me. You can check out more episodes and content at mikeduppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You can also follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, and it's at Mike DiCiccio, MikeDiCiccio. Thank you so much for your continued support. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.